What's going on, guys? Niko here, and in this video, I'm going to put to rest the confusion around the circle of fifths. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you the circle of fifths so that you can actually apply it to the songwriting process to help you become a better songwriter. Now, I've watched so many tutorials on the circle of fifths. I've taken online courses about the circle of fifths, and none of them truly unlock your songwriting potential like this video will. So make sure you stay all the way until the very end so that you get all the information that I'm going to be presenting with you. And with that said, let's get to work. Wanted to make a quick announcement that I'm giving away a free piano lesson. So if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, comment down below piano mastery. Additionally, if you are a music producer, check out the free MIDI packs down below in the description. I've been taking chord progressions from Millennium, Sigala, the Chainsmokers, and many others, and putting them into these free MIDI packs for you guys to use. And with that being said, let's finally get some clarity on the circle of fifths and so that you can use it to become a better songwriter on the piano. So let's break down the circle of fifths on the piano, and I'm going to show you how simple this actually is. So we start off with the key of C, right? And if we just play a C major chord, C, E, and G. Now, what is the neighbor on the circle of fifths to the right? Well, it's a G. So all we have to do here is play a major chord or a power chord. So we keep doing that. So we play G, B, and D. And then what is the D? Well, that's the fifth. All right, so we keep on going here. And we then play D, F sharp, and A. And again, I'm just playing major chords here, and I'm constructing them using the 3-2 method. So I take the root, I count 1, 2, 3. The next note is the third. And then 1, 2. It's called also a triad. Some people refer to it as that. And basically, I can play the entire circle of fifths on the piano, right? And then I'm just going to go back down so you guys can see it all. Right? So the circle of fifths is really easy to understand once you look at it on the piano. And it's the same exact thing for the relative minors too, because inside, on the top of the circle of fifths, normally it'll say C major, and then right below it'll say A minor. So, okay, great. All I have to do is go on the piano and say, okay. I have the C major, whoops, the A minor. What's the fifth? It's an E. And it goes on and on and on, guys, right? So that's the circle of fifths in a nutshell. Now, what happens when we jump from key to key? So the first circle of fifths, it shows that we have a C major. So the 7 notes that we're using in this music family are going to be right here. And the way that you can get these scales is, one, you can download the free Piano Cheat Codes PDF, where I literally give you all the scales written out for every single of the, of the 12 music families, the 12 keys, including major and minor scales. But the reason why scales actually matters is because we need the 7 notes per key. So when we look at the 7 notes right here, it's all white keys. There's no sharps and there's no flats. Now, if we move one to the right and play in the key of G, the notes are this. These are the 7 notes. Now, notice one thing that stands out. There is the first sharp. And why is this a sharp? Because it is a black key, but more importantly, it's F sharp. And as you go to the right, you start adding more sharps. And all a sharp is, let's say you're playing an F sharp. F, you go sharp up and to the right. So that's an F sharp. And again, these are just the notes in the key. You can download the PDF if you want more info on that. Point is, when we go to the right on the circle of fifths and we keep going to the right, we keep adding more sharps. So the key of D major. Here we go. So now we have an F sharp, and now we're also adding a C sharp. And as we go to the next circle of fifths, that's the key of A now, we have 3 sharps, and then we get 4 sharps, and then I'm looking right here, we get to a 5 sharp series. So the last 3 on the bottom of the circle of fifths, we have B, and then C flat, F sharp, and G flat, and then D flat and C sharp. Now what can get really confusing here is, like, basically all that this means is that if you play the key of B major or C flat major, these are what I call crossover keys between the sharps and the flats. So basically what it means here is that there's 7 flats and there's 5 sharps. And the 5 sharps are right here. And you're like, okay, they're black keys, they're sharps. How are there 2 white keys and they're considered, how are there 7 flats? Aren't all flats and sharps supposed to be black keys? Well, this is where this shit gets confusing a little bit, and people get confused, excuse my language, but point is that there is something known as a C flat. Now, a C is a white key, but if we go one half step down, one semitone down, it's now a B. So basically, what's going on here is you have an F flat and then a C flat, which is a B and an E. And this is, again, for denotation purposes. And again, a flat is just one semitone down, one half step down. So C, F flat, you go down one. E flat is right here. And basically the circle of fifths continues, and we keep going down it and then going back up until we get to our first, A flat, which has 4 flats. And then we get to E flat, and then to B flat, and then to F. And this is all great to understand, right? Because, if I start at the top, I go to the left, I add flats. If I go to the right, I add sharps. But how is this going to help us as music producers, as songwriters, as composers, when we're creating music, right? So what we have to understand is that all these families have relationships with each other. So when we play through the chord lineup, and the chord lineup is something I go in other videos, for the key of C, we break down these, the chords. There are opportunities for us to add a sharp or a flat, and the easiest way for us to do this to the chords is use the first sharp in our neighbor, which is the key of G, which is an F sharp. So a chord example I'm going to show you right here is going to be A minor, G, F, and then D minor. So my question for you is, where can we find opportunities to add an F sharp? Well, A minor, there's no F sharp in this chord. G major, there's no F sharp. F, and then D minor. Well, both of those chords have an F. So can we sharp it, and will it sound good? This is how we use the circle of fifths to experiment a bit with our chord progression here. So when I'm going through, I have an A minor, a G. That sounded pretty unique to me. Now what's going on here is, this is an F sharp diminished chord because it's using the 2-2 strategy. Again, in Piano Cheat Codes PDF for free. Right here, 2 and 2. I don't really like that one though, because I don't like ugly chords. They're called diminished chords. I call them ugly chords. I don't like them too much. But what I do like is this. And this is the chord progression from deadmau5's song, I think Ghosts and Stuff is what it's called. So this is a way that we can borrow chords from our neighbor. We're borrowing a sharp and bringing it over and disrupting the flow of the original 7 keys. Because these are supposed to be the 7 keys. We're not supposed to use other notes. However, we can use the circle of fifths to spice up our music, because if we just use these 7 notes, you can make really great hits. There's a lot of hits that don't have any accidentals, that don't borrow chords. But if you want your music to really stand out and really do well, using borrowed chords sometimes will really spice things up a bit from the monotonous, repetitive, using only these 7 notes. All right, well, that's great. Can you give me something else? I can. It's your lucky day. So what I'm going to show you now is something the Beatles did in their song Here Comes the Sun. And it goes like this. Now, what did I just do there? So the Beatles, what they did is they knew how to do the circle of fifths really well. These guys were experts at the circle of fifths. So what they did was they created a song called Here Comes the Sun. And what they did was they jumped around to 5 different keys. So they went from G, or C, G, D, and E. So when they had the part that goes sun, sun, sun. All right, that's it. So it goes like this. They're basically going from this and they're playing all these chords. So they're playing the C major chord, the G major chord, the D major chord, the A major chord, and then the E major chord, and then they go back. Right, so that's a great chord progression to use. But when I was looking at this and studying the Beatles and saying, oh wow, this is what they're doing, what if we instead took 4 major chords and shuffled them around a little bit that were all neighbors to each other? So when I'm looking at the circle of fifths, I'm looking from E flat to C. And that's how I came up with this chord progression right here. So all it is it's a C flat, a C major, an E flat major, a B flat, and then an F. All right, now the confusing part for songwriters, and I think at this point you kind of understand what I'm doing. I'm just taking the first chord in each of the majors and just making a chord progression out of it. But some may say, well, how do I write a melody to that? So in the event that you're using the four, and this is advanced stuff, guys, so if you're getting this well done. If I'm using four chords here, like C, E flat, B flat, and F, what are my largest extremes? And what I mean by that is I'm looking at the circle of fifths, how many flats and sharps do I have in the most extreme cases? Now I'm starting with C and I'm going to E flat. So E flat has three flats. It has B flat, it has E flat, and it has A. So if I play the scale, so it has, so right now there are four white notes. And I know that these white notes are going to be involved in every key that I'm playing in. So if I want to take the most conservative approach when writing a melody, if I'm playing this chord progression, I can use these four notes to write the melody, and it's always going to sound like it's in key. So let me show you, for example. I'm going to make something up right now. That's not the right chord progression. That's the most conservative approach, right, with this chord progression, because that way I'm not going to really mess up, have any of those weird sounding dissonances when you don't really know what you're doing when you're jumping around. However, every time I play each chord in this type of chord progression, this circle of fifths chord progression that I call it, what I'm allowed to do is every key that I jump around in, so I'm going from the C in the key of C, which is all white keys, to this E flat major where I have three flats I can use now. All of a sudden, I can use these notes to construct my melody. Now, once I switch to the B flat chord, which is the next chord in this progression, I lose one flat, because if you're looking at the circle of fifths, I'm looking right now with you, on E flat, we have B flat, E flat, and A flat. All of a sudden, the A flat is gone. So I can't use an A flat anymore, or else it may sound okay, but it may sound a bit weird. And then when I go to my F, I just lost my E flat. Again, technically. Now you can make some really good mistakes here and you'll come up with some crazy stuff. So if I'm playing it using the notes per key, let me write something right now. This is how it could sound if you're, playing something. So it didn't sound good because that was an A flat. The A flat didn't sound good right there because I'm not playing a chord that involves the A flat, so that sounds wrong. Anyway, I don't want to get too crazy into this, but I want to show you guys the true potential with the circle of fifths. And in the rest of my videos on YouTube, I go into more and more chord progressions where they sound like this, or there's a lot of unique chord progressions that you can create if you really understand the circle of fifths. And this is just an introductory video, but after watching this, you shouldn't really need to watch any other video to understand the circle of fifths. And I made this video because so many people reached out to me saying, hey man, I want to use a circle of fifths to songwrite. I want to know what's going on. And I've seen all these courses where they don't even talk about the piano, but in reality, if you just look at the piano, it makes sense. Like I didn't understand the circle. I played piano for all this time. I watched all these programs. Oh, circle of fifths. Yeah, I kind of know it, but I don't really get it. After watching this video, rewind it and watch it again. You should get the circle of fifths. All it is you have 12 keys. Each key has a certain amount of sharps and flats, and we borrow from our neighbors if we want to create something a bit more unique and something that spices it up a bit. Sometimes you go to your neighbor's house and you want to get some ketchup, and they have Heinz, and I like what do you call it? I like Heinz, and they have Hunt's. And you try out Hunt's, and maybe you like Hunt's, maybe you don't. And I like ketchup, so that's why I made that analogy. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we want to experiment with stuff. We want to be testing out new things, trying new things as songwriters to push the creative boundaries of what we're trying to do. And that's when we do that, you know, that's when we get the success and the stuff that most people don't get. Now, if you watch this video and you understand what's going on, you are now in the top 1% of people that actually understand the circle of fifths. So congratulations to you. And with that being said, that concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, comment, subscribe down below. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one for absolutely free, every Friday I select a winner from the comment section. So comment down below, piano mastery. Again, this could be going on for years, and I will make sure I get that winner every single week as long as I'm alive and healthy. So with that being said, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.